Hi guys, I'm back with some stories. For those of you who watched the last video I posted called Reality Shifting Realm Hopping, this is kind of a follow-up because the very next night after I filmed that, I had a wild night of astral projections. And so I really wanted to share this. It was kind of like the realm hopping on steroids, but it was just the astral plane. So that's a bit of a nuance there. So I'm going to try to explain it as quickly and clearly as I can because this night lasted forever. I went to bed early at 11 p.m. My cat woke me up at 5 in the morning. I went to pee, came back to bed. I laid down on my back because I wasn't trying to astral project, but when I want to give myself a chance to project without trying, I lay down on my back. And sometimes that's just enough to get me to wake up in the vibrational state a bit later and get out. So yeah, that's how the setup was for these experiences. And then, okay guys, so I got out of my body probably 10 times, and I'm not exaggerating. You're going to see in a moment why I say that. I had 3 complete astral projections in a couple of hours, and I hopped into one and into the other several times. So I didn't start an astral projection, finish it, and then have another one and finish that one. One of them started, okay, number 1 started, and then I came into number 2, and then I came back to 1. Went into number 2, came back to 1, and then number 2 finished, and then I was still back in astral projection number 1, went into astral projection number 3, had that astral projection, came back and finished astral projection number 1. Was crazy. And so I'm going to explain all 3 of these astral projections and try to not confuse you guys with all of the hopping because it confuses me. And imagine when I came back from all these astral projections, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to remember everything? And I started writing notes. I even recorded myself. I'm like, there's too much here. So it took me a few days before I could piece together all the information and make a clear stories for you guys. This is recent. This was on November 7th, the date I posted the last video because I had made the video the day before. Okay, so I think I've gone through the setting. Yes, that's good. Okay, let's start. Astral projection number 1. Okay, so this astral projection was semi-lucid. In the beginning, it was like being in a dream. It was an astral projection, but I was not lucid. And then later, when I came back and back from the other astral projections, at some point I became lucid in that one too, because I was lucid in astral projection number 2 and astral projection number 3. The first one just started off a bit less lucid. And so I found myself in this first astral projection. I was coming back from a hospital and I was being accompanied by 2 women who were taking me back to their home because they were going to be taking care of me for a few hours, maybe up to 24 hours, like a day, in between this appointment I had just been to at the hospital to be prepped for a said surgery. It was kind of like some prep, like maybe I took something to drink, I had to go wait it out at home, or maybe they just went and they took my pressure or my stats or whatever, and then they told me, go back home, when it's your time, we're gonna call you. And so these women were bringing me to their home and they were going to be caring for me, but in their home, there were a lot of people there. And they were taking care of other people like me. And I think they were maybe not healers, but definitely that was their work out in the astral, to take care of people who were going to get some form of astral surgery. And then there were other, I think there were the people that they're like me that were going to get healed, but they also had visitors over at their home and there was a party going on for some children. So that's the first part of the astral projection number 1, where I was not very lucid, but this is what was going on. And then I woke up in my bed, my eyes were closed, and I'm like, oh, I think I can get out of my body. Okay, so this time I was not in the vibrational state, and this, for those of you who don't know, it doesn't have to always occur for you to get out of your body. So in the last video, I was saying how when I, last time, that video where I realm hopped, every time I came back to my body and I found myself in the vibrational state, I would just take that opportunity to get out. This time when I came back to my body, it was not in the vibrational state, but I could feel that something was off, like my astral body was not in my physical body. And so I quickly tried and was successful at exiting my body. And then I found myself in my bedroom. So my eyes are always closed until I reach at least the end of my bed. So my eyes were closed. I was reaching the end of my bed and I heard some noises in the bedroom. And I'm like, oh, who's that going to be? Because it's rare I have people in my bedroom when I get out of my body. And so that makes me nervous. And I have my eyes closed. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to let this bother me because I want to astral project. So whoever's here is here and I'm going to deal with it. So I opened my eyes. And at that time, I was starting to float up towards my ceiling. And there were 2 children standing on the floor of my bedroom. And they were laughing and having fun. And they were trying to pull on my legs and my feet. And so I thought that was kind of cute, but I didn't have time to stay close to my body, because if you stay close to your body, then you have a chance to get sucked back in. So I left the bedroom. And as I left the bedroom, I lost consciousness. And so then after losing consciousness, I was back in Astral Projection 1. In Astral Projection 1, I was now driving back to the hospital with the 2 ladies. I was very nervous that I was going to get to my surgery appointment late because there was a lot of traffic, because I knew that we had just come from the party and that we were already kind of late. And I was riding with the 2 ladies in the car and there was traffic. And then I lost consciousness. I awoke in my body in my bedroom. And I exited my body again, but this time the 2 children were no longer in the bedroom. Instead, there was my spirit guide, you know, the one that helps me out. And this time he was disguised as my daughter. And so he was on my left. And in front of me, in my bedroom, there was a mirror that's not usually there, like a rectangular mirror. And I looked through it and I could see that about 12 children had gathered at the mirror. So this was kind of like a portal. In the astral, mirrors are often portals. And the mirror had appeared on my wall and children had gathered at the, edge of this mirror, this portal, and they were peeking into my home, into my bedroom. And I looked at my guy, I'm like, did you see this? And the children looked very excited. They were extending their arms, and I went to see them. I went close up to the mirror and I touched their hands. They were super happy. They looked excited to be there and to be peeking into my world. And so I didn't want to stay close to my body again. I left my body. Then I crossed the threshold of my door. I lost consciousness. I'm starting to realize that every time I cross a door threshold here in this place of mine, I lose consciousness. That doesn't really matter. And then I found myself back in the first astral projection. And in this astral projection, now I was no longer with the 2 ladies who had driven me there and taken care of me during prep time. I was now in the hospital and I was with 2 nurses, female nurses. And the first one handed me 4 pills. They were white pills. And she said, you can take 2 or you can take 4, you decide. So I took 2. I'm not the type of person who likes to take medication, but this was prescribed for the surgery. And so I took 2 of the pills. And, I waited it out. I was looking around. I was talking with the nurses. And this is the part where I became lucid. I had not been so lucid when I was stressed out. I'm going to be late. But when I was at the hospital, I was lucid with what was going on. I was talking with the nurses and telling them that I was excited to get the surgery. And I knew it was a surgery for my digestive system, but I don't have any more clarifications on that. But at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you some of my personal reflections on these astral projections and how they link to what's going on in my life in the physical world right now, because there were a lot of parallels between what happened in these astral projections and what's going on in my personal life. And so we were talking, and then at some point the second nurse says, how many did you take? And I said I only took the 2. And then she said, oh, if I were you, I'd take the 2 other ones. And I was trying to get her to tell me why it would be important to take the 2 other ones, but she just responded, oh, you won't regret it, take the 2 other ones. And so I took the 2 other pills, and then I woke up and I was still in my home. Now I had moved to the bathroom of my home, which is close to my bedroom, and I was hearing sounds, and my guide was there with me, and I was hearing sounds of kids laughing behind the shower curtain. And so I moved towards the shower. I pulled the shower to the side, and there in my shower were about 5 or 6 kids taking a shower and having fun in my shower. Yeah, okay, so that was happening. I don't know why so many kids. It's like a portal opened up in my house, and all these kids were pouring into my house and having fun, checking out the place, you know. And so I moved to the living room, and there were kids there still. And I moved out through the ceiling of my home, and outside it was super nice. Like you see right now, first snow. It's white outside. Yesterday it was very dead, everything, the trees, no leaves, nothing, great. And back when I had this astral projection, so when I got out of the house, it was summer. It was very sunny, and the grass was green, the trees had leaves. It was really nice outside, and my neighborhood looked very similar, but there was a big difference. The 2 houses in front of my house right now were not there. Instead, there was a really nice park with grass and benches, and a lot of people from the neighborhood were walking around. It looked like, it kind of gave me the feeling of like the Truman Show, you know, like this perfect neighborhood, everything's going okay, everything's fine. And so that was really weird to me. It was pretty different from how it is right now. I do have a nice neighborhood, but not that nice. And so then I woke up, and I came back to my body, and then I did not go back to astral projection 1, but when I came back to my body, I was still in this state, and I came out of my body again. Now, this is the beginning of the 3rd astral projection. I was also lucid in that astral projection, and when I woke, I was in a long hallway, like a long corridor. And you could see at the end of the corridor some light or whatever. And I wanted to get to the end of the corridor, but the faster I tried to fly to there, the further away the end of the corridor went. So it's like I was trying to fly like this, and maybe the end of the tunnel, not the tunnel, the end of it was a hallway or a corridor. So I was here, and the end was there, and if I flew very fast, it got away from me, and it got away like this, like it's like I couldn't see the end anymore. And then at some point I realized, oh, if I slow down, and then that's what happened, is the end of the corridor started to, you know, get to me, and I finally reached the end of that corridor. I had to slow down to reach the end, which is not intuitive, you know, for me. I guess for most of us, that's not how speed works, you know? Movement works, the physics of movements. Not everything is the same in the astral plane, and this was a big difference. So when I reached the end, it was a very beautiful, large window, and it was golden, like a golden window, and it was arched at the top. It had these like square framing in the middle. It was very nice. And I looked through the window, and on the other side of the window was the lobby of a big, nice hotel. And this is a lobby on 2 stories. I was looking at it from a 2nd story and looking down, and I decided to go see what this hotel was all about. So I moved through the window into the lobby, and I was just gonna visit and look around. And at some point I saw there was a woman who was sitting in the lobby, and she was eating something that looked like a cookie or a brownie. And I was just gonna go by and go visit the hotel. But then I remember there's a YouTuber who's an experienced astral projector that I follow, and her name is the Astral Tourist. And she often talks about, not often, but she's talked about it a few times, about how eating in the astral can help you stabilize your energy out there. And I had never known this before, and I'd never tried it. And also, she, the Astral Tourist, had mentioned that food doesn't taste much on the other side. And I have eaten on the other side in the astral planes, but I never really noticed if the food was good or not, or if it tasted anything. So I have like two of these big questions about food, and I see this woman there eating, and I just decided to take a chance and go ask her if she would share her cookie with me. And she was super happy. She said, "Oh yes, please." And she, she showed it to me. She's like, "Just take whatever you want." And I took about half of her cookie, and I thanked her. I was super happy. And then I just left with the cookie in my hands, and I started to eat it while I was walking around. And it's true, it did not taste, it had taste, but it really didn't taste anything much. It wasn't like delicious brownies or cookies here. It was just very dull tasting. And so I moved on to the rest of my observing, getting to, visit the hotel. And I don't know if I got more energy out of this. Maybe I did, because the astral projection did not end there. And then I continued to walk in the corridors, the hallways of the hotel. And then I'm like, oh, if I don't figure out something to do right now, I'm going to lose it and be back in my bed. And for some reason, I thought that was going to be the end of my astral projections. And so usually I have a plan. But lately, my plan has been, if I get out, I'm going to be searching for Monsieur, my deceased dog that I miss every day, or visiting the Akashic Records because I have a plan of things I want to look at there. And that's the plan. So when I found myself in that hallway, for some reason, that's not what came to mind. What came to mind is the video I filmed earlier this week, the day before this happened, in which something similar was happening, where I'm like, oh, I have to find something to do. I was pressed in time. And so I just figured, oh, I'm going to try time travel. And then I asked the question, I wound up somewhere. And so this time I'm like, okay, let's try it from being inside the astral, not just being inside my body in the vibrational state. And so I was in the hallway, and I just said, oh, I'd like to go see what my grandpa looked like in 1940. Okay. So as soon as I said that in my mind, I don't think I said it out loud. I said that in my mind, I willed it, and the whole scenery changed, and I found myself in the astral in another place. So was this a fourth astral projection? No, I just time traveled or something. But I found myself in the street in a small town. It was gray, so the weather was not great. And all these kids, again, kids were there right in front of me. So I was in 1940, I suppose. The kids were dressed like kids would have been dressed back then. We were in the street, and right away I said, this is not right, because my grandfather in 1940 would have been 20 years old, and these are children. So I wondered, did I just not come to 1940, and why would that have happened? But I'm like, I have to look, why am I seeing these kids when I'm looking for my grandfather? And unfortunately, none of these kids were my grandfather. And so at that time, got pulled back into my body, and that was the end of Astral Projection 3. And when I came back, I'm not sure I even remember hopping. I don't remember coming out, but I was now in my, I don't know where I was. I was now in horizontal position, but instead of laying on my back, I was laying on my stomach, and I knew I had gone to bed laying on my back. And so it took me a second to realize, okay, why am I in this position? I was laying down on my stomach. My face was like in some kind of cushion or whatever. And I could have just tried to get out from that position, but I figured it was better to try to understand why I was in this position to begin with. And I think I figured it out, not sure, but I think I was having that surgery I was planned to get in the astral projection one. And then I woke up, but I did not wake up right away. I fell asleep, and later I woke up, and that's why I was confused. I'm like, how am I going to remember all of this? Because I even slept after all these projections. Okay, so you guys know I made notes. Just want to make sure I covered all of this and see where I'm at to make sure I covered everything. And I think I have. I woke up in the morning. It was 8:45. Okay, so this happened between 5 and 8:45. Okay, so now on my reflections about how some of these themes are overlapping with things that are happening in my personal life, in the physical world right now, okay? First thing, on the healing, the surgery and all of that. What's very interesting to me is that in my personal life, I'm battling a bad case of H. pylori infection and ulcers in my stomach. And I've been battling this for a few months now and going through treatment, and I'm not even done with that. And throughout this process, I've wondered if there were ways for me to find someone in the astral to help me heal, or me finding a solution to heal energetically through the astral as well, not instead of physical healing and everything I'm doing here in the physical world, but I've been looking up some stuff on that. And what's weird is that, yeah, I've tried energy healing before on my dog, Monsieur, and I didn't have much success with that. I have also looked at finding a guide in the astral to help me with energy healing and healing of the physical body, but I haven't been successful with that either. And so to now have an astral projection where I'm being taken care of, prepped, and everything for a surgery on my digestive system while I'm going through this infection and the treatment and the ulcers and all of this I'm trying to heal, I find it very interesting. I don't know, I did not wake up the next morning all healed, and I don't know if that's going to have any effect on me in the physical world, but it's still interesting to note that, right? Okay, so then on the children that were popping up from nowhere into my house, I have no clue why that would happen. I did try to analyze why would there be a portal opening up like this and them staring into my world and being all curious and all excited to be looking at me in my place. And so the only possible explanations I found for this, the first one that makes the most sense is maybe, okay, and I'll say this with a grain of salt. Maybe you guys have ideas about why that happened. Please write them in the comments. I wondered if maybe some of these children were shopping around for a family to incarnate in. And nope, I'm not looking to have babies. So they wouldn't be incarnating as in my life as me being their mother, but my daughter is of age. She is not looking to have babies right now, but sometimes things happen and they're not planned. So maybe that could be a possibility of why children would be staring and observing me through a portal in my home. Maybe they're checking out the future grandma. I don't know. This is one of my theories. The second one was maybe because there aren't that many children in my life either. And when I think of children energy, usually I think about pets and all of this wildlife that I feed on my porch. You might have seen a few squirrels or a few birds flying on my porch. You know, I'm a person who really loves animals, and they feel to me like young souls most of the time. And so maybe some of these souls, which were in human form, would have been, you know, souls of animals that I've had, or that I've kept, or that I've helped, or that are coming into this world. I don't know. So those are my two theories about a bridge between the astral and the physical with the children. And then about yeah, that's the last thing here. Hold on. I know it's a long one. I'm almost done. The last thing I wanted to mention was about the corridor, because I got a feeling when I was trying to rush to the end of the corridor and I couldn't reach it, and it it really gave me the feeling of how I'm feeling in my life right now, always trying to rush to do the next thing. And I'm sure I'm not the only one feeling like that, but you know, you have something on your to-do list and you finally check it off and 2 other things appear in your to-do list. And it's like you're never done. You're never reaching the end, never reaching your real goals or whatever. It's never over. There's always more. And that's something I'm struggling with right now, is how to be able to slow down. And I know that doing all of this, you know, rushing around trying to do stuff is not helping me. It's probably doing the same as this corridor was telling me, that the faster you try to go, the more you try to do, the less efficient you are, and the slower it's gonna take to get there. You know, so I've been struggling with that, and this kind of echoes this sentiment I have in my personal life. So that's it, everyone. Yeah, I'm very happy that every time I astral project, even though I've astral projected for a long time, that every time I learn new things. I learned a lot in this one, and in these ones, I am sorry I didn't see Monsieur again. I've been having a lot of dreams about Monsieur, and I hope that I'll have some lucid astral projections with him soon, and that's okay, I guess, because at least I'm going somewhere with my astral projection practice. So I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and thank you again for watching. See you soon.